Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amour de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is my co-host, Donovan. And we're here to bring happiness into the world. And we have a very special guest today. Melanie Veazey is an international vocal acting and wellness coach who is dedicated to developing the talents of the whole person so they can find and live their dreams fully, passionately, and authentically. Please welcome Melanie. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so wonderful to be here. It's a pleasure always to meet new people and to discuss wonderful topics like developing happiness and how to live your life well. So I'm thrilled to be here with both of you.
Yes, we're thrilled to have you. So let's kind of dive in, and why don't you start by sharing your story and how you got into theater and acting and singing and all of that.
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
Well, I think everybody when they're little loves to sing and dance and perform, and I got bitten by the bug very early. Was a dancer and an actor, and I did it all through school and high school, and then I went to a university called Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and they have a wonderful musical theater program there. And it was my dream to do that. And I graduated in 1990 with a group of wonderful people. And we all got to New York City, and we expected to sign the rich and famous contract because that's what was promised to us. And, we were all auditioning for Broadway and for television shows. And I think I got the first 2 jobs that I auditioned for, and then, I was like, this is easy. This is who even knew how easy this was. And then nobody told us that you can audition for something 50 times and still not get something. So what ended up happening was I was auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, and I wasn't getting anything. So instead of knowing that was the nature of the business, I started really kind of developing depression and anxiety, and realized that, perhaps I needed to go home for a while. So I went home to Connecticut, which is 2 hours out of New York City. And during the time that I was there, I was still going to the city to audition, but I decided that I wanted to teach, because I always thought if I wasn't in the profession as an actor, I would teach. So I opened a studio, and I had a 3-acre studio with an art center, a dance center, drama. And I had this brilliant, beautiful studio for probably 8 years in Connecticut. And then I hit 30. The ripe old age of 30. I kind of had a early midlife crisis, and I was kind of like, what the heck am I doing here in this little small town in Connecticut? And I decided I wanted to go back into acting. And I kind of let go of everything from that portion of my life and moved to Orlando, Florida. Why would one move to Orlando, Florida? Such an interesting concept. Well, I had friends that lived here, and it was at the time becoming the Hollywood of the East. And they were doing lots of television shows here and lots of commercials. So I moved here in 2000, and it was just before 9/11. And as soon as 9/11 happened, the whole film industry shut down in Florida. So to make my very long story a little bit shorter, what ended up happening was I was still in front of the camera here doing commercial work, but I started teaching again. And this time I didn't have a studio. I kind of brought my services into schools. And while I did that, I started a private practice. And that's kind of where I found what I truly love. And that is coaching the whole person, finding their voice, whether it be singing or vocal coaching for podcast or for acting in front of camera, I have kind of developed this love for working one-on-one with people, so that I can really get to know them and figure out what their goals are and help them get to achieve what they want to achieve. So that in a nutshell is my story. So I've lived in Florida now for 20 years. You know, sometimes I feel like I want to move, but for now I'm still here. Now I'm still here.
Great.
So
Well, sounds like you're pretty settled there, and that's a great story. And I actually I do have a question for you, but I just literally watched this interview with Alexander Skarsgård, who plays Eric on True Blood. I love him. He's gorgeous. And shout out to you, Eric. But he just shared like a very similar story, and how I didn't realize fully how tough the show business is like he had this warped perception of Hollywood, in that he did get his first job on being on Zoolander, and he just happened to be visiting the US. His friend was like, oh, you could do this audition, and then he got the part. So he goes back to Sweden and thinks this is just so easy to get jobs in the US. He had this warped perception, and then he comes back to the US and doesn't get a job for 3 years. And I was like, wow, you have to really build a lot of mental resilience to stay in that profession. To
really hard. It's very hard. And I think now I'm really honest with my younger clients. I coach a lot of teenagers and college age kids that want to do this as a career.
Yeah.
And I'm much more, it's a kind of thing like you want to be the teacher and coach you had when you were younger.
Yeah.
So I really try to give them the business of the business and tell them how really brutal it is. And it's brutal. It's a brutal business because, you can get the part in the movie, but then still get cut. They can edit you out, or, it's just, and Broadway shows close and movies end, and it's not like a job where you can grow and build, and the percentage is always interesting to me. Only the top 1% of actors are working, and it's only 1% of the 1% that have actually made it.
Wow. 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really a difficult business.
Yeah.
So it's not for the thin-skinned at all. So, and I still do a little of it here in Orlando, but I do it when I want to and when it's fun. And I do roles that are mostly theater now, but roles that are challenging and fun for me. And so I still get to dabble in it when I want, but
that's good.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a healthier balance, rather than like having your whole life depend on an acting career. You're doing it because it brings you joy and happiness, rather than like your livelihood, because it's like the chances of it supporting your livelihood is pretty slim. Not impossible, but
but it is. It's really slim, and the thing is, it's also a very intoxicating business. I call it a drug, or being bitten by a bug, a sickness, or an illness, because when you're on a set or in a theater, you have an instant family, and it's such a warm, loving group of people. Everybody has to get to know each other really quickly. If you're in a movie or in TV, you get paid really well, and you're fed, and you're put up in beautiful hotels. And so it's like this magical bubble of, and then, but it's like winning the lottery to get a part, to get to that. And you keep playing the slots to see if the next one is it, or, you just want another shot at that feeling of, and it's a feeling like no other. Once you're in front of a camera or on a stage with lights on you, it's super cool. So So yeah, so there's lots of wonderful stories I can tell you. But
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of feast or famine type of things going on where, it's like these long periods and then these shorter bursts of just, whoa, this is really nice and amazing. And I have to imagine that most people aren't naturally equipped to handle that emotionally.
Mhm.
I would be curious what kinds of tools or mindsets or approaches or things that you've used, because it sounds like you're in a much better balanced place now.
Yeah.
What things have you used or developed over time that have really helped you be able to moderate some of those highs and lows?
It's really hard. I think that you have to be really kind to yourself. I think that you have to know at the bottom of it all that you are talented and that you are worthy and that you are 100% capable of doing the parts that you're up for, or singing the song, or being in front of a camera, or being on a podcast, or you have to understand that. And so the tools that I always use with my clients and with myself, number one is talking it out. You have to talk it out. You have to be, if you're disappointed because you didn't get a part that you were this close to getting, sometimes in film and TV, there can be up to 7 callbacks. Can you imagine? 7. You get closer and you get closer and you get closer. I had a client a couple months ago that was on her 3rd callback for a Netflix musical. And the 3rd callback was in front of the director, who was a famous director, and was, and so I had to pump her up, and she's 16, but I had to say, you're going to get this. And she was beautiful, she was talented, she was perfect for the part, and she didn't get it. I don't know why. But it's that kind of disappointment. So you have to be able to feel that disappointment, be in it. If you're going to cry and yell, do it. And you have to know that who knows why you didn't get the part? It has nothing to do with you. Yeah. And this is actually a very funny story too. I was on a commercial set and I knew the director, and one of the roles hadn't been cast and they were starting to shoot the next day. So she took a bunch of headshots and she threw them on the floor like playing cards. And these are people that had auditioned. Okay. But she threw them on the floor and looked at the director and said, just pick one. And she just went, that person got the part. So you never know. You never know. So all that being said, you have to really build your confidence. And whatever you need to do to find your happy, whatever you need to do, whether it's working out, make sure you're working out, make sure you're or you're doing yoga, or you're eating healthy, or that you have a routine that's not just based on this part, because you never know when you're going to get it or when you're not going to get it. So you have to have the balance in your own life. You have to be fulfilled. The saying, fill your cup. You got to fill your cup.
Yes.
Your own cup has to be filled because nobody else is going to fill it for you. So
yeah, I think that's a really, really good point that you touched on, in that, your happiness can't be riding on whether or not you get this part, because you got to find ways to find happiness, even if you get the part or not. So you're still feeling happy and fulfilled. And you touched on how you help people develop the whole person. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think one of the best ways to be successful in life is to really understand yourself. And when I work with someone, I don't just say, okay, so your goal is you want your voice to be better for podcasting, or you want to audition for this part, and you want to be a better vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
I spend time really asking questions. I ask a lot of questions, and I get to know, I'll be in the middle of an exercise and I'll stop and I'll say, okay, tell me something I don't know about you. So, and that it not only does it throw the person off, but they'll go, oh, I have 6 brothers. What? Yeah, tell me about that. You have 6 brothers. Okay. So then in my head, I'm going, well, that's an interesting dynamic, how they were raised in a family of, and so so I spend a lot of time figuring out how that person got to where they are. The only way that you can feel, our voices are a very emotional part of us.
Mm.
When you are scared, when you're angry, when you're happy, when you're sad, any of our emotions get stuck or come out through our voice. When you cry, when you laugh, it's all vocal.
Mm.
The only way that you can be confident in your voice is to truly understand your emotions.
Mm.
And so if you're nervous or you're excited, and there's a fine line between the two, it's going to show in your voice. So, as I'm speaking, I'm listening to myself too. And I'm going, oh, I'm a little hyped up because I get excited about meeting new people and interviews, but it shows in your voice. But developing the whole person is me being able to say, all right, I feel like you're holding a lot when you're speaking or singing. I feel like your voice is in the back of your throat. Why is that? What are you holding back? How are you feeling? Are you upset today? I can instantly tell when somebody comes in, if they're having a bad day, if they're happy about something, the way they hold their body. A lot of us slouch. And why are you slouching? What are you what's making you slouch? Is it, where's your confidence? So there's a whole series of questions, and it doesn't happen in the first session. It takes a while,
Right.
To kind of dive deep and say, what are you holding back? What are you afraid of? Why do you want to do this? So after several sessions, there's kind of an ease of back and forth between us, whoever I'm coaching, so that they're freer and saying, well, when I was 10, somebody made fun of my voice when I was up in front of the class, and that stayed with me forever, but they had forgotten that. Or, my mom told me that I shouldn't cry because it makes me look weak. I don't, it's just all this stuff that we bury over our lives. And it's really interesting how when you free your emotions, your voice becomes freer. And your whole persona changes, really. When you're confident in the way you speak and the way you can stand up in front of people and say your name confidently. It's always it's really hard to do, standing up in front of a group of people and saying your name. I don't know if you've ever had to do that, but it's always like you get a little nervous when you have to go around the room and introduce yourself, So that's actually an exercise I do with a drama program, especially with little kids. It's so much fun. I call it Hi, My Name Is, or Star of Your Own Show. And they have to stand up in front of the room and tell me their first and last name and how old they are and something special about them. And
that's a good one.
It's really cute. It's a great exercise to do because, then after a couple times, I can't wait to go and tell the class something special about them, something they didn't know. So So that's my long answer to the whole person development.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I had a question just listening in, and you tell me if I mismapped something. But it sounds like to me there's kind of two pieces of your work and the main thrust of your work, and one piece is kind of the technical skills, right? Like you can change how much you project, you can change kind of the tone a little bit, and some of these other things. But there's also this other piece of who you are as an individual, especially when it comes to voice, and I imagine it filters into acting and some of these other avenues of expression as well. Who you are and how you feel is going to moderate some of that output, regardless of how much you practice the skills or work on the individual pieces. So it really takes those two things together. And probably in addition, since it's pretty difficult to land jobs and whatnot in the field, all those things probably come together to form the basis you need to be successful in the long term. I don't know if I've mischaracterized anything, but that's kind of the gist that I was pulling, or how I pulled the pieces together.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. That's, and I think it's, in any work that we do, we go into it thinking it's going to be one way, or, okay, I'm going to teach singing. That's how I started. I'm going to teach because I went to school for that. And, I think that I would be I could do that. I could teach voice lessons. And then it morphs. I think it happens to all of us that we start with something, and then as we grow and get older, we realize, oh, we have this kind of little addition to our bag of tricks. And I think for me, because I did go into the field of acting, you kind of have to be really good at a lot of things so that you can jump into any business you can while you're waiting for your next job. So that's what's developed. That's kind of what I've developed over the years is, it becomes, I really should have gone to school and become a psychologist. Is really, really should have done, because I end up doing a lot of that, and not, obviously not for real, but it's, when you're good at really listening and understanding somebody and putting yourself in their shoes and knowing what it's like to be their age. And again, I'm going to teenagers, a lot of that's been the bulk of my work. I love working with adults too, and I've actually been doing a lot of it in the last year because a lot of it's on Zoom and through Instagram. I've met wonderful people like yourself, so I've been able to reach out to some adults, which is great. But as we get older, a lot of adults tend to forget what it was like to be a teenager, and I don't understand that. I mean, I remember everything about it. So when I have a teenager that's struggling with something, I know, I remember it. So I can say, wow, I think it's this. I think you might be feeling this. And, maybe you need to try reaching out to, I don't know, to develop friends or whatever we talk about. But yeah, so that's, and also over the pandemic, I took a course in Reiki, which, so I became certified in level 2 Reiki. And I also did a course in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. So it was Reiki I've always been so fascinated with. And for those of you that don't know, it's kind of the universal life force and the direction of our energy in our bodies and chakras and balancing them. And so that's been super cool for me to start to use that in my work as well, to really figure out, okay, so now I have this client and where are they blocked? What are they blocking? So that's been wonderful. And the neurolinguistic programming, it's just being able to read a person, really. It was, I don't know if you guys know anything about it.
I do. I'm trained in it too.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
There you go. So it's, it's kind of been using, I used a lot of it without knowing I did. Being able to read a person by the way they're using their eyes or their body language, or so that's been a great addition to my programs that I do. But yeah, so yes, Donovan, you are right on with what you were saying. And you, by the way, have a nice, great, deep voice.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have not taken any training of any kind, but I definitely spent a period of time going through focusing on speaking less nasally. And that was such a struggle. And maybe we can expand on this a little bit, but I used to record music occasionally. We'll not go into that any further. But
the rapper.
But that was one of the things that bothered me a lot. So it speaks to me a lot when you say, it's not just this piece of the technical skills, right? It's not just those parts that you need, because even after I was able to not speak out of my nose as much and not have this nasally sound, and also I found out that my septum was extremely deviated, which getting surgery for that helped enormously. But outside of that, it really resonated with me that it's not just the technical skills. It's not just going through, I can speak from here instead of here, or in this other tone. There is, it seems like to me, especially in that group, both people who want to show their talents, but a lot of insecurities that are developed there as well. And getting past that, I feel like, is it makes such a huge difference in the types of performances and whatnot. I from my personal experience, like the times that I'm trying to produce something and I don't feel confident, you can absolutely see it. You can absolutely tell the difference between when it is more in that place of, I'm making this because it's something I want to make and it's expression, as opposed to, I'm making this, I hope it's good, I hope my voice doesn't sound terrible, I hope that this comes across all right. So it really resonated with me, kind of the approach of both sides, because there was also a very, very early time where I had the confidence and none of the technical skills, and that was possibly worse.
Yeah, there's always those people that show up and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, you go. Let's just work a little bit on your pitch.
So following up with that, I think I kind of have an assumption about what the answer is going to be, but since you went to some schooling in this realm, was it mostly a focus on the technical pieces? Did you get any of those, sort of psych pieces or mindset pieces that you needed and they weren't applied, or did you find that wasn't really explored much?
We, in a 4-year program, we had voice and speech every morning at 8:00. It was every day. So anybody that comes to me and says, well, I want to fix my voice, what, 10 sessions isn't enough? Well, I did it for 4 years every day. I mean, we can do our best and I can give you the exercises, but you have to really want it and really work on it. When I was that age, I think that they tried their best to help us. However, it was at the time where it was kind of a lot of tough love, And I think that they were doing that to us to prepare us for the world of the real world. But there were several teachers, not several, one or two. That
it feels like several.
One or two, not 3.
Okay.
That really destroyed me in college. That really were instrumental in knocking me down to a point where I didn't want to dance anymore. And that was my strength. And I didn't want to dance. Singing in front of people made me so scared that my voice shook and I could not fix it. I started having panic attacks.
Wow.
And I had no idea what a panic attack was. There was no, and at that point, and it's no longer there. I think Carnegie Mellon has really worked hard on helping the kids now. And I mean, I would go back in a heartbeat and do it again. That it was just 4 years of really the best time of my life. But I don't think they knew how to help us. What I was going to say was there was also a cut system. So we started out with 36 kids in our class. And by the end of the 4 years, there were only 18. And in my musical theater class, there were only 6 of us. So, and that's, so they knocked us down, but then at the same time, they gave us such a huge ego because there were only 18. We made it, we made it. So that's when we went to New York and we were like, we're here. We're
ready. We survived that.
We survived. So in answer to your question, no, I don't think that we ever got the tools that we needed. I don't think they ever built us back up in the right way by saying, why is your voice shaking every time you do your voice final? Why is that? Let's fix that. You can't go to New York with your voice shaking like that. And that was really my downfall, was my anxiety. My anxiety and my voice I just was so intimidated by everybody, one of my favorite, and Donovan, please tell me if I go way off the rails with my stories, but one of my favorite stories to tell my clients now is one of the last auditions that I had in New York City was I was auditioning for a musical called Will Rogers Follies, and it was on Broadway, and it was all these beautiful dancers. And so I made it through the first round of auditions, and I went to the callback, and it was we were on the Palace Theater stage, and there were like 60 girls there, and it was exactly like what you see in the movies, I remember standing there and having this out of body experience and looking around, and I'm 5'8". I was 5'8". I'm probably 5'7" now, but I was 5'8". A good dancer, a good singer, I had the Carnegie Mellon on my resume, but I looked around and I saw this girl next to me had a better leotard on than I did. And this girl next to me had really expensive shoes on. And this girl had redder hair. And this girl had longer legs. And this girl had bigger boobs. And this girl, I mean, it just went. So I totally sabotaged myself. So I wish, and this is what I do now, taking it all the way back to developing the whole person. So I wish that somebody had said to me, so you are you. There is nobody else that looks like you, that has your legs, that has your hair, that has, you can do this.
Yeah.
And whether you get it or not, the fact is you were called back for a Broadway show. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So maybe next time you'll get called back again, and maybe you'll get closer. Maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. But you got, So it's that type of work that I'm doing now that I think is so important. In anything that we do. It doesn't have to be just theater. It's any job that anybody has. You may be up for a promotion. You may be, why didn't you get it? Why? Oh, I don't know. But you did the very best that you could.
That definitely seems like a healthier way to approach, especially for young teenagers that are still, working on building their self-confidence and discovering who they are. So it's like to be torn down and to realize that, you do need to realize what the real world is like, is that you're not going to win every single time. And you have to develop that thick skin. Yeah.
it's really hard,
Yeah.
I think, today, because we're in the mindset of everybody gets a trophy and everybody
Right.
and it's really, really hard
Sure.
when you get
Yeah.
out into the real world and you don't get a trophy every time. You just don't.
Why not?
But
Right. But it's an important lesson, life lesson that we all have to experience. And I really love that your approach has that twofold approach, because yeah, the technical thing is important, but I've done singing lessons here and there, but I've never gotten the like the mindset aspect into the emotional tapping into my emotions and all of that part, which I see is important in developing yourself as not just as a singer, but just as a person.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you too, Dr. Alice, you have a beautiful voice too, a beautiful speaking voice.
Thank you. I actually don't, I'm more comfortable with my voice now, but sometimes when I hear myself from like my early video content, I just like cringe a little and I don't like my voice, but I'm
Well, we
starting
can't
to
really-
own it better.
Yeah, we can't really hear ourselves. And I say
Yeah.
that to everybody is you have to listen to yourself enough so that you get used to what your voice sounds like.
Mhm.
But you can't be an honest judge of yourself. Like Donovan, what you did with taking your nasality out, that was great. You heard that and then you worked on it. But it's really it's important to cut yourself a break, that you sound like you, and we're, if we work together, we're just going to give you some tools to use more of your resonance chambers and drop your voice a little bit so you don't sound like you're in the stratosphere or but yeah, it's very emotional, very it's a cool thing to do.
Definitely. Great.
Yeah.
Well, Melanie, it's been a real pleasure just chatting with you about how, even though you're a vocal coach, you're obviously much more than that, and helping people discover themselves in a lot of ways. So where can people find you? And is there anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up the show today?
Sure. Well, my website is melanieveazey.com, and I have my all my packages up there, and just send me an email if you're interested, or but I also, one of the things I started doing in the pandemic was I started an Instagram account, which is how we all have met, but it started
Cool.
out with a creative outlet for myself.
Mhm.
And it's turned into this, me creating a piece of art with words of wisdom, which I sometimes
I love it.
giggle at. But
Nice.
through that, so my coaching, my Instagram handle is Impact Coaching and Wellness.
Mhm.
So that's there, and so I get to be a little creative, and but mostly it's just it's for fun there. But yeah, if you want to know anything more about me and what I do, head to my website. Again, it's melanieveazey.com.
Great.
And that's it.
Yeah. And we're going to put those links in the description. So check it out. Anyone that's interested in her services. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and then go and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you get notified when the next video comes out. If you check out in the description below, go to my website where you can get my free fast and easy guide to stress relief. Thanks again for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.